In this video, we'll create a simple blog with Webflow. And yes, I know that Webflow is not a blogging platform. That doesn't matter. Webflow has something called CMS, or Content Management System. This allows us to create collections. And collections can be about anything. Your favorite movies, the latest shoes you bought, or in this case, blog articles. And we'll take it one step at a time. First, we'll look at a Figma design and do some planning for our blog. Then we'll set up all the necessary collections in Webflow. Finally, we'll create two blog pages, one for a single article and one that displays a list of articles. You'll also learn cool stuff like importing from CSV files, creating fields that reference other collections, and also filtering and adding limits to collections. Hey everyone, I'm Adi, and without further ado, let's get started. This video is brought to you by Envato Elements, the largest unlimited creative subscription in the world. Click the link in the description to find out more. Now, before we do anything in Webflow, it's a good idea to plan your blog structure. That way, you'll know exactly what fields you need to add to each collection and also how the blog will be laid out. So, let me show you what we're working with. I quickly designed this simple blog, or actually two blog pages in Figma. And this is a blog index page where we see a list of our blog articles. And we also have a very simple header that shows, all the articles as well as some categories. And at the bottom, a very simple footer. Now, the next page is the page for a single blog article. It has the same header, but we also have the article name, category, a bit of meta information like the author and publish date, a blog main image or cover image, whatever you want to call it, the blog content. Here we have a list of tags, then some information about the author, and then finally some related blog articles. So this is what we need to create basically in Webflow. Now, we also have some spreadsheets here. This is the authors. We have the author name, a little bit of a bio, and a URL for an avatar image for each one. And then we have the blog articles written here in the spreadsheet. We have the title, a short description, the article content, the author, a list of tags, and then the category it sits under, and then finally the publish date. And we'll be adding this later on to the collection. Now, what I want to do is create the blog structure, as I was telling you earlier. So we're going to reference this Figma design and see exactly what we're working with. So first of all, let's think about what collections we need to add to our blog. And collections, as I said, they're basically lists of things that have the same format. Like, for example, we are going to create a collection for the blog articles, where each blog article looks like this. It has the title, the description, and so on. We also need a collection for the authors, and each entry in that collection is an author. And each author has this format. It has a name, it has a bio, and it has the avatar image. So let's start with collections. So we're going to say blog articles. We need a collection for the authors. What else? Each blog article has a category, right? Tech trends, gadgets and gear, software and apps. So we're going to need a collection for the categories. Then each blog article also has tags, right? And these are just keywords you can use to link related blog articles. So we're going to need yet another collection for tags. And that's pretty much it. These are our 4 collections: blog articles, authors, categories, and tags. And by the way, since Webflow is not a blogging platform, right? It just offers us this amazing CMS we can use to create pretty much anything we want. You can, define these collections in any way you want. It doesn't have to be necessarily in this format, right? You can call them whatever you want. Don't think about a blog, a Webflow blog, like a WordPress blog, right? Those are two different things. They achieve the same thing, but they go about it in a different way. In WordPress, you don't have much options for customizing the CMS, right? While in Webflow, you can create it in any way you want. You can name these collections in any way you want. So that's the collections done. Now let's look at the fields for each collection, right? So we're going to take blog articles and we're going to have what? Let's go here, or let's actually go to the Figma design. That's even better. So we have the title, right? Title/name. We have an author. We have a published date, right? We have a list of tags. What else? We have a short description that's displayed here in the index page, right? If you take a look closely, the main content is different from this short description. So we're going to have a short description. What else? We're going to have the actual blog content. Yeah. We're going to have the cover image that you see right here. And that's pretty much it. That's the structure for our blog articles collection. Let's actually say blog articles collection. Great. Let's move on to the authors collection. So what kind of fields do we need here? Well, we need an author name. And as we can see here, we have a bio and a cover image. Bio and avatar/cover image URL. Next up, categories collection. And for this, we need basically a name, right? That's all there is. It's a very, very simple collection, this one. It's going to be tech trends, gadgets and gear, software and apps. And finally, for the tags collection, we need the tag name, of course. Do we need anything else? No. So these are two very simple collections. Okay, so that's the gist of our planning, basically. We went over what collections we need for our blog, and we also defined the structure of each collection, meaning what fields we need to add to each collection. And we covered the blog articles, the authors, categories, and tags. So now that we have the structure, it's time to jump into Webflow and create those collections. Now, if you've worked with Webflow before, but you haven't really touched on the CMS part of things, don't worry, it's super, super simple. So CMS stands for Content Management System, as I said, and it's a feature in Webflow that allows you to create a content and store it in a database, right? And at any point, you can retrieve that content and display it on the front end, on the actual website or web project. Now, Webflow makes it super easy to do this. It's all visual. You don't need to write any kind of code to make that work, as I'll show you in just a little bit. Now, I went ahead and replicated the design you saw from Figma in Webflow. And of course, for now, we are using some just some dummy text here. But don't worry, we'll be replacing this with content from the actual database, from the actual collections in the next lesson. But for now, let's go ahead and create those collections. And to access them, you would go to the sidebar and click on CMS and then create new collection. Here you have the option to choose from a collection template, which will automatically populate some of these fields. And you can choose from blog posts, authors, categories, projects, and so on. We're going to do it from scratch so you can learn the process a little bit better. So Let's create the first collection for tags because that's super, super simple. So here we're just going to say tags. And by default, this comes with two fields. It comes with a name and it comes with a slug, which is basically an ID. If we want, we can add custom fields, although for our example, if we look at the structure here, for the tags collection, we just need a name, which we already have. So we're going to create that one. Okay, so now it says you have 0 tags in your collection, which means we need to add some more items, right? We can create some sample items, and this is where Webflow will just add some dummy content to your collection, but we're going to add our own. So we're going to say new tag, and we're going to give it a name. Let's look at the spreadsheet here, where we can see all of our tags. So we're just going to copy from here and paste it here, and then hit create. And we're going to do the same for the other ones, right? So copy this, paste it in, create, and so on and so forth. And once we've added all of our tags, your tags collection should look something like this. Great, let's move on. Let's add a new collection, this time for categories, right? We're going to click this button here, create new collection, and we're going to call it categories. Same basic fields, name and slug. Let's create that. And let's add a new category. This is much easier because we just have 3 categories. So those are the categories. Next up, let's create the authors collection. And you might be wondering, Adi, why aren't you creating the blog articles collection first? Well, that's because the blog articles collection has certain fields that will reference other collections. For example, the author field in here will reference the authors collection. Same thing goes for the category. And actually, I forgot to add the category field here. All right, so the category field will reference the categories collection. Same goes for tags, right? So we're creating these 3 first, and then we're creating the blog articles, the main collection. So let's create the authors collection. And here we have 3 fields, name, bio, and the avatar image URL. Now, here's the cool part in the Webflow CMS. Let's go ahead and create the authors collection. And here we have the name, and we're going to add a new field that's going to be for the bio, right? So we're going to do a plain text, and I'm going to call it bio. And since this is a longer text, we're going to choose multiple line like this. In Webflow, you can also choose a minimum and a maximum character count. You can specify whether or not the field is required, which is pretty cool. So let's save that. And we also need another field that's for the avatar URL. So let's add a new field. And here we basically have 2 options. We can either go with an image or we can go with a link. Now, in the Google Sheets here under the authors spreadsheet, I'm using a link because I've already uploaded these avatar images to Webflow. So let's do the same. Let's use a link, and I'm going to choose avatar URL. So now we need to create a new author and just copy paste the information from my spreadsheet. But there's actually a faster way. Webflow gives us the option to import content from a CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated values. And we can create a CSV file from Excel, Google Spreadsheets, or pretty much any kind of tabular data program. So let's select the Authors tab here in Google Sheets. We'll go to File, Download, CSV. And this is the file that it downloaded, and it looks something like this. It's basically a table, right, which gives us the 3 fields, name, bio, and avatar URL. Cool. So now we can go to Webflow, we can go to Import, and we can drag the CSV file that we just created. Webflow asks us if the first row in our CSV file is the header and we're going to select yes, this is the header, because it's going to use this to map the actual fields. So continue. And then we're going to map each field from the CSV to our collection, right? So the name from the CSV, we're going to map it to the name in the collection, the bio to bio, and the avatar URL to the avatar URL. And Webflow does this for me automatically. If there is a mapping issue, you're going to have a different icon show up right there. We also get a nice preview on the right side, and then we can just hit import authors. We don't really need a backup, so we'll just import. And just like that, without any copy pasting, we now have the authors database populated. For now, we can just see the name, but we can click on this icon and we can choose the bio and the avatar URL. And we can also, just hide some of the other fields. Now, finally, let's create the collection for our blog articles, which is you can think of it like the main collection. So create new collection. Let's call it blog articles. And let's define the necessary fields. We already have the name, right? That's going to be used for the title. Great. Next up, the author. So add new field. And instead of choosing one of these options, we're going to go with a reference. Okay. We're going to call it author. And I'm going to choose the authors collection to reference. Simple. Save. And here in the editor preview, you can see how that's going to look like, right? We can enter the name of the blog article, and then we can choose the author using the dropdown. Let's go for the publish date. So add new field, and I'm going to choose date time, publish date, save field. Next is tags. So again, we need to reference the tags collection this time, but since we can have multiple tags, we're going to use multi-reference. So we're going to call this tags, and we're going to reference the tags collection. Save field. Next up, we have the short description. So let's add a new field. We're going to do plain text, short description, and this is a slightly longer text, so we're going to choose a multiple line here. Save. Add new field. Let's create a field for the actual page or the actual article content. This time we're going to choose rich text. This is the most suitable format for long form content, right? So rich text, let's call it article content and save. And then we have a cover image and a category. Let's add a category. That's going to be another reference, this time to the categories collection, save. And finally, for the cover image, we're going to choose image, cover image. And here we get some additional options. When working with images, we can choose a minimum and a maximum image file size, and also image width and height, again, min, max. So if you have a certain aspect ratio you want to preserve for your design, this is where you can limit what kind of images you can upload, which is fantastic. So save field. And with that, we're pretty much done with our blog article field collection fields. So let's create the collection. And now we need to add the actual content. So let's go ahead and just copy this. Let's create a new blog article just to see exactly how the interface looks like. So we're going to enter the name, author. This is drop down. It references the author's collection. So I only see items from the author's collection. And the first one is David Smith here. Publish date. I think we have that somewhere around here. Yeah, that's April 12th, 2024. We also get a nice date picker. Tags. Remember, this is a multi-reference field, right? So I can choose multiple tags. For this one, we have artificial intelligence, virtual assistants, and this one. How easy is that, right? Short description, it's this one here. Article content, it's this one here. Now I have something very simple for this, but this being a rich text format, you can really add a lot of stuff like bold italic text, headings, images, links. You can do that no problem. If you have a rich text format somewhere, you can just copy and paste that. And because this is a rich text field, it's going to preserve all of those styles. Okay. Next one is the category. This one is for gadgets and gear. So again, we're referencing the categories collection here. And then finally, the cover image. We can choose an image from our computer. And I've downloaded 3 of these images from Envato Elements. You'll find links to those in the video description if you're interested. So I'm just going to click and drag from my computer into this field. And once that's done, create it. So that's our first article. And of course, at any point, you can click on the article and edit the content. Or you can click on the settings here and change the collection settings. Next up, let's create the other 2 blog articles using the same exact method that I showed you previously. Now, obviously, you can use the same import option that I showed you earlier, and that's okay if you have an existing list of blog articles, but I prefer to show you the old-fashioned way. It doesn't really take that long. It took me like 2 minutes to add these 3 articles. And just like previously, you can choose what fields you want to display here. In a nutshell, this is how you create collections and also create fields that reference other collections in your Webflow CMS. Okay, so we've set up the collections, which means the blog content is now in the database, but we need a way to display that information to the front end, to the actual website. So let's do that next. Recently, I needed an eye-catching intro for one of my videos, but video editing is not my strong suit. So I turned to Envato Elements for a creative boost. For the first 10 seconds of this project, I used these 2 video titles, along with these 2 geometric backgrounds. I imported everything in DaVinci Resolve, made a few adjustments to the text, and done. The result? A vibrant, eye-catching intro that sets the tone for the rest of the video. Now, I'm no Spielberg, but I love the end result, so I would highly recommend Envato Elements. Huge library of assets, 1 subscription, and unlimited downloads. For more info, check out the links in the video description. So in Webflow, let's go to the blog page. Now, what I created here is a static page, right? It just has the elements that we need, right? It has all the text elements, but these are not linked to anything. And before we start working on this, there are some things that I need to show you. So if we go to the pages, we can see the 2 static pages that I created, and that's home. This is going to be the blog index, and this is the blog page, right? It's the single article page. But when I created the CMS collections, Webflow actually created 4 templates for me, 4 page templates, 1 for the blog articles, 1 for the authors, 1 for the categories, and 1 for the tags, which is fantastic because instead of creating a new page for every single blog article, Webflow is going to do that for me automatically by using one of these templates. So instead of editing the static page that I created and linking each item to a certain field in the database, what we need to do is edit the blog articles template for this particular page. So let's go there, and you can see that we have a blank page. So let's go ahead and grab some content. I'm going to go to the blog page, the static one that I created, and I'm going to choose the container that I have here, just copy and paste that in. And we also have this blog cover image. Let's paste that into the body. And we also have this container element. And then finally, we have the header and footer, which are actually components. So let's go here. Let's grab the header. Let's move it up like so. And let's add the footer. And that's going to be at the very bottom. Now, currently the styling here is not right. And that's because in the blog page, I am using this body class. And we need to apply that here as well. Okay, so we basically copied all the content from my static blog page to the CMS collection page template. Now, let's link all of the necessary fields or elements on my page to a field in the collection. And let's start here with the category. So select that, click on the cog icon, and click on the purple plus icon. We're going to connect it to the category name from the database. Let's do the same for the heading 1, this time to the article name. Pretty cool, right? Let's go to the author. Again, we're going to choose the author name. And the date is going to be the published date. And then let's select the image. Same thing. Let's connect that to the cover image. And just like that, in like 1 or 2 minutes, we connected these fields or these elements to the fields back in the database. And this is the actual page for that blog post, right? It's the article about cybersecurity. Now I can use this dropdown in Webflow to go to the other blog articles from my collection. This is the one about the rise of AI assistants. And this one is about the AR, the augmented reality article. And for each of these, you'll notice that when I switch pages, the fields will update automatically, right? The category updates, the title, the author, the date, and the image. And we can now go ahead and do the same for the rest of the fields. So this is the article content, and this is just a text element right here. But I actually want to add a rich text block, right? So let's go ahead and copy that or add that. And I'm going to link this to the article content. Okay, and we can go ahead and delete that bit. And then we can go ahead and apply any kind of styling that we had to it. So I'm using Lotto here. Size is 16, 150%, line height, and the text color is inherited. Awesome. Now, let's see about the tags. And if you look in the navigator, you'll see that all the elements that are actually linked to a field in the database are now displayed in purple. And that's just a visual aid to show you which elements are static and which are dynamic, which are actually connected to something in the database. Now, let's move down and see about these tags. And each tag is comprised of a link block with a piece of text inside. And again, I want these to be dynamic. I want these to display the tags from the database. Now, how do we do that? Well, if you want to display multiple elements that are linked to something back in the database, we can use something called a collection list from the Add menu in Webflow. So we go to Add and then scroll down to CMS where we see Collection List. Okay, so we drag this in and we're going to drag it right here where it says Tag List. So here we first need to connect it to a database, and we're going to choose a blog article fields, and we're going to select tags. Right, that's a multi-reference field. And the collection list is basically made up of several elements. We have a collection list wrapper, then we have the actual collection list, and then we have collection items. Now, what we need to do here to display the tags just like this is to basically edit this collection item so that it looks like this tag element. And we can actually do this. We can drag that element in the collection item. And then we can go into the tag text and choose the tag name from here. Okay, this was the static one that we had previously. So let's delete that. And because we connected the collection list to the multi-reference field in the back end, we now have all the tags generated automatically by using this format, right? So you can see the collection item just has that format that I added earlier with the tag link block and the tag text. But because it's a collection list, it looks in the database and it generates all these three elements automatically. So now you can, target the collection list and you can choose how you want to display this. Maybe you want to use Flexbox, align everything to the center, maybe, set up a gap for these elements. So now you'll see that these tags will change depending on what article I'm seeing, right? So this is using the tags from this article. And if we go to the cybersecurity one, it's using the tags from that article. Now, let's move on to the author info. Let's start with the author name. Select the name from there. Author bio, same thing. Like that. And finally, the image. And right here, it tells us that we can only choose from cover image. Now, why is that? So if we go back to our CMS collections and we go to blog articles and we go to the structure, we can see that the cover image is actually a field type image. Okay, and this is exactly what we need here. This is an image, right? And if we go to the CMS collection on the authors, the image, we actually added an avatar URL instead of an image element. And this was actually a mistake by me. I was under the impression that you can actually use the image element here and paste in a URL and it's going to work, but apparently you cannot. So we need to make a slight change to our collection. So we go to authors, we go to the settings here, we go to the avatar URL and we delete it. And then we're going to add another field. This time it's going to be image. And we're going to call this author image / avatar. Of course, you can call this whatever you want. So we're going to save that field. So now we save the collection and we need to go into every single entry in the authors collection and choose the image for that entry. So let's do that. I quickly exported the three authors images. So for Alex Chen, I'm going to drop that in, save. Let's do the same for the Emily Johnson avatar, save, and for David Smith, like so, and save. Okay, so now we go back to our page, we go to the image, we go to the options, and now we can select the author image avatar. Okay, so that's going to display, of course, that's Alex Chen. If we change to an article that has a different author, like David Smith, we're going to get its name, its bio, and the correct image. Same goes for the other one, like so. Perfect. Now, finally, let's work on the related articles, where we basically need to display two additional items. So just like we did before, let's add a collection list and let's place it right there. Let's choose blog articles as the source. And then the collection list here will basically need to match the structure of my quick stack, which is a simple 2-column grid with 96 pixel gap. So let's do that. So we're going to choose grid, 2 columns, 1 row, and 96 pixel gap, like so. And then for the structure of each collection item, we're going to use the following. I need a heading 2, that's going to be for the article, and I need a meta container that's going to have the author and date. Okay, now I can delete this static element, and I can start linking these items to their corresponding fields in the database. So that's the title, that's the author, and that's the published date. And you can see that this one displays all the articles from my blog collection. But I just want the related articles, not all of them. And certainly I do not want the article that I'm currently previewing. Okay, so I can choose that collection list and we can go to settings. And first of all, I can limit how many items I want to show. I just want to show 2 items, okay? And then I can filter the collection by saying that the blog article is not the current blog article. So when I save that, that's going to display 2 blog articles that are not the one that I'm currently looking at, right? And if I change the page here, this is the page about AI assistance, I get 2 elements that are different from the one that I'm currently viewing. So that's fantastic. And of course here, we just have a heading 2, but this is supposed to be a link, so we can wrap it in a link block. And we can go to the link block settings. And as for the URL, we can choose go to the current blog article. And when we preview this, you'll see that clicking on these will take me to the correct page. And of course, we can, style these link blocks a little bit. We can get rid of that decoration, and we can also change the font color, like so. So then, as a final preview of the completed blog article page, all the content is grabbed dynamically from the database, depending on what article I'm looking at. That includes, the title, the image, the content, the author, the tags, and also we are displaying some related articles or some other articles down here, depending on what we have chosen. And as a final note, you can, really customize this collection right here by adding more filters. So if you say that you want your tags, you want the tags to contain, for example, any tags of the current post or any of the tags here is selected manually, then you can do that. So you can truly create a related articles section where you display articles that have some tags in common with the current article. Let's actually do that, right? So I'm going to add a filter where the tags of the element displayed here contains any tags of the current blog posts, right? So when I save that, no items found. Because if we go back to the collection here, all of these items in the collection have different tags. But if for some reason in the cybersecurity article, I choose a tag, let's say artificial intelligence, and I save, then if we open the cybersecurity article, which has the artificial intelligence tag, where on the related articles, I also get the article about AI assistance, which has that artificial intelligence tag. So you can really fine tune how you want to display these collection lists. So that's the single article page. Now, let's go ahead and create what's commonly known as the blog index page, which is basically a page that displays all of your blog articles. Now, to create the blog index, we don't need to edit any of the CMS collection pages because the index page can be a standalone page. The difference is, instead of these static elements here, I'm going to add a CMS collection list. Right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's look at the structure here. So each one of these is basically a blog post, and they're all placed in this container element. So let's go ahead and add the collection list. And I'm going to place that right above in the container. Let's select the source as the blog articles. We can now close this. And I'm going to choose the blog post as a template. And I'm going to drag that inside the collection item, like so. So now we can go ahead and delete the other static elements, which were there, just for demo purposes. And now we can go ahead and link the elements to the corresponding fields. So this is the category name. This is the article name. This is the author. And this is the date, the published date. And then we have the article description, like so. Just one thing to do here. Let's target this list. Let's set it to flex and add a gap in between. Simple, right? But of course, these need to be links. So let's wrap this in a link block. And that link block is supposed to go to the current blog article. And just like I did previously, let's remove that text decoration and change the color. So now you'll see that each blog article is displayed correctly, including the category, the link, the author, the date, and also the short description. Now there's one final thing to do here. Let's work on this menu here, because currently it's just some placeholder text, right? So let's double click this since it's a component, and all articles. Let's go to the link block actually, and let's link this to the home page. And then for the rest of the items, let's again create a collection list, because I want to grab these categories from the database. So grab a collection list, paste it right there. Let's source this to the categories this time. And then each collection item will look like one of these link blocks. So let's just drag that in. Let's delete the static ones, right? So the text for each link will display the category name, and the link block itself will go to the collection item page link. And then as a final adjustment, let's select the collection list. Let's set these to flex, and let's match whatever a gap I had here, 32 pixels. And let's align everything to the middle. Great. So now, because this is a component, it's going to be displayed correctly, or it's going to be displayed the same on every single page that it's used. And now clicking on the all articles will take us to the home page, the index page, and clicking on any of these will take us to the slash categories slash whatever category we have here. Now, currently it doesn't work because we haven't actually created those pages. But that's really easy to do using the CMS collection pages templates. You would open this up and you would edit that to display the categories however you want. And that's it. That's how you can create a very simple blog with Webflow. Obviously, you can go much more in-depth with this. You can add comments, you can add share buttons, but that's a little bit beyond the scope of this course, which was about teaching you the basics of working with a CMS and creating a simple blog. And the CMS functionality that you learned about can be used for lots of different things. So, question for you, what sort of CMS would you create with Webflow? Let us know down in the comments. As always, don't forget to check out the Envato Tuts Plus YouTube channel for more content like this, but also to learn about web design and web development and a whole lot more. It's all free, so make sure to click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'm Adi, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care.